I walked into the nursery ready to fire the agency and froze. A stranger was in my chair, bottle in hand. My daughter's tiny fingers curled against his chest. She should have been screaming, but she wasn't. She was calm, breathing in rhythm with him, as if he belonged there more than I did. The nursery is quiet in the expensive way silence can be. Thick drapes soaking up city noise, a soft machine hush from the purifier, the watchful glow of the monitor on the dresser. I pushed the door with one finger, already composing a reprimand for the agency, and stop halfway across the threshold. There is a man in my rocking chair. He is broad-shouldered in a plain gray shirt, sleeves pushed to his forearms, the posture of someone who knows how to take up less space than his frame allows. My daughter is cradled in the crook of his elbow, cheeks flushed, mouth latched to a bottle with the unwavering focus of hunger finally met. Her small hand rests against his chest, opening and closing as if testing the rhythm beneath. "Who are you?" I say, not raising my voice, because authority doesn't require volume. He doesn't start. He looks up once, brief and steady. "Ethan, from the agency. You were confirmed for tonight. I did not authorize a stranger to feed my child. You authorized a caregiver," he says, quiet enough that the word doesn't ripple the air. She was crying. She'd been crying for a while. Heat crawls up my neck, annoyance at him for the phrasing, at myself for the accuracy. She has a schedule. She calms if you hold her a certain way. "I tried your way first," he replies, adjusting the bottle with a barely perceptible tilt. "Didn't work. This did." My daughter exhales a contented sigh that seems to loosen something I have braced for days. The scent of warmed formula mixes with lavender from the drawer-lined sachets I insisted on even when everyone said the baby wouldn't notice. Maybe I wasn't buying them for the baby. I step closer, palms flat against my sides to keep them from making fists. "How did you get in?" "Doorman. Badge. Agency callback. You can check." He nods toward the phone on the dresser. The gesture is respectful, not deferential. He does not put the baby down. I should call downstairs. I should summon procedures that have always soothed me. Gatekeepers, protocols, verifications. Instead, I reach for the edge of the crib and steady myself there, tracing the smooth rail where I once counted grooves through a contraction and told myself that grit could be a form of love. "She startles if you shift too fast," I hear myself say, against the earlier certainty that I would say nothing but leave. "I noticed," he answers. "She settles if I breathe slower." I catch it then, the way his chest moves, deliberate, almost instructional. The baby's hand stills. The room narrows to breath and the soft click of the bottle emptying. "I don't need charm," I say. "I need competence." Ethan's mouth lifts in a ghost of a smile that doesn't reach for approval. "I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to keep her fed and calm. And when she sleeps, I clean the bottles, log the times, keep her safe." Safe. The word lands between us like something fragile set on a high shelf. Outside the glass, a siren threads the distance, thin as wire. He doesn't look away from my daughter. I don't either. "Finish," I say finally, hearing the concession in it. "Then we talk about the rules." "Understood." He tips the bottle a fraction. "Almost there." I stand beside my own chair and, for the first time tonight, let my shoulders drop. The bottle clicks empty, and my daughter's jaw slows, mouth working a few last, instinctive pulls. Ethan draws the nipple away with the care of someone who understands that even a fraction of haste can undo minutes of progress. She whimpers once, just enough to remind us both of the razor edge between calm and collapse, then curls against his chest with a long, shuddering sigh. I wait for him to falter, to look at me for direction or approval, but he doesn't. He shifts the blanket around her, one hand supporting the small weight as though it were nothing, though I know from experience it is everything. He begins to move the chair, slow and steady, the rhythm unbroken. "She's a fighter," he says quietly. "She's my daughter." I answer, sharper than intended. The words are armor. I didn't mean it like that. His voice stays level. "Some kids give in to sleep. She wants proof. She checks every sound, every breath." My throat tightens. He sees too much. "You make it sound like she's suspicious." "Not suspicious. Just tuned to survival." He glances down, the corner of his mouth softening as the baby stirs. "She'll sleep when she believes she's safe." I press my palms harder into the crib rail. "And what makes you think you're the one who can provide that?" He doesn't flinch. It isn't me. It's the breathing. The patience. Kids know when the person holding them is trying to prove something instead of just being there. The words land uncomfortably close to truths I've never voiced aloud. How many nights have I bounced her with a desperation to fix the crying rather than ride it out? How often have I measured myself by whether I could end the noise, not whether I could endure it with her? You sound practiced. I say, quieter now. I am, he answers simply. He doesn't elaborate, doesn't try to sell his story. He just rocks, breath after deliberate breath. Her eyelids flutter, lashes damp, and then they stay closed. I don't move. Neither does he. The room holds stillness like glass. You can put her down, I whisper finally. Not yet. He brushes a thumb over her tiny knuckles, the movement careful, deliberate. She's asleep, but not convinced. Another minute. The patience unnerves me. The restraint unnerves me more. And yet, against every instinct to stand guard over my own child, I feel something in me loosen, just a fraction, as if my body is listening to the same rhythm he offers her. The baby's breathing steadies into that deep, hiccup-free rhythm that means real sleep. Ethan rises from the chair slowly, as though he has rehearsed the movement countless times, his weight balanced so the floorboards give no protest. He lays her down in the crib with a precision that belongs more to muscle memory than instruction. I expect him to step back, to surrender her space. Instead, he lingers one moment longer, resting a hand near her belly without touching, a silent check that her small chest still rises and falls in time. When he withdraws, the room feels both lighter and more fragile. You've done this before, I say, not a question. His eyes lift to mine, shadowed and steady. Once was enough to change me. There is a silence I cannot parse. I want to demand details, to measure his credibility by facts. Yet something in his tone stops me. Still I push. Once. My son, he says finally. Born early. Too early. Doctors told me what he needed. But in the end it wasn't the monitors or the numbers that got us through. It was hours of sitting still, letting him know I was there. His jaw works, the words leaving him slowly, shaped by memory rather than performance. And his mother? I ask, the part of me that distrusts every polished resume unable to resist. Gone before he was born. No bitterness in it, just fact. So it was me. Just me. The air thickens. I cross my arms, less in doubt than in defense. Plenty of men in your position would have walked away. I didn't see it as noble, he replies. I saw it as necessary. He didn't have anyone else. His calm infuriates me. My entire adult life has been built on the premise that competence requires ceaseless proving, and here stands a man stating survival as simply as breathing. And your son? I press, even though the answer is already written in the slope of his shoulders. Didn't make it past the first year, he says. His eyes do not drop, but the silence after swallows the room whole. I should stop. I should not feel the ache that expands behind my ribs. But I do. I picture him alone with a fragile child, counting breaths through nights longer than any board meeting I have ever endured. You still chose to come here. I murmur, softer than I intend. He exhales once, slow, the way he did when holding her. Because every time I walk into a room with a crying kid, I remember what it means to be the one who stays. There is no flourish, no plea for sympathy, just a truth placed between us like a weight neither of us can move. The nursery feels too still after his words, as if the air itself is unwilling to stir. I retreat first, stepping into the hallway with the kind of control that looks like composure but is really escape. Ethan follows, careful not to close the door fully behind him, leaving a sliver of light angled across the hardwood. My phone buzzes from the console table. I know the rhythm before I glance down. 3 short vibrations, pause, then again. The board chair. 3rd attempt tonight. I let it ring itself into silence. You're not going to answer? Ethan asks, his voice mild, but the question weighted. It's late, I say, already moving past, as though distance could dissolve responsibility. It's the 3rd time they've called. He notes, not accusing, simply observing. And I snap, sharper than I intend. I'm allowed to decide when I'm available. He doesn't flinch. Of course you are. But deciding and avoiding aren't always the same thing. The truth lands like a slap, because it isn't the board chair I am avoiding. It's the look I imagine on their faces if I stumble, if I sound tired, if I admit that one human being cannot simultaneously run a company and raise an infant without cracks showing. They've waited for cracks. Some of them pray for them. You think you know me, I murmur, arms wrapping tighter across my chest. But you don't. Ethan leans against the wall, arms loose at his sides, posture casual in a way that makes my own feel brittle. I don't need to know you, he says evenly. I can hear what silence sounds like. I want to fire him. I want to reclaim control of the moment with a single command. Yet the part of me that has spent months pretending I'm unshakable also longs, achingly, for someone to see what it costs. You talk as if I'm fragile. I tell him, my voice low, each word balanced on the edge of a blade. No, he counters. I'm saying toughness isn't the same as carrying it alone. The phone buzzes again, vibrating against the table until it rattles a picture frame beside it. I let it ring. My reflection stares back at me from the black screen when it silences, jaw tight, shoulders squared, eyes more tired than I allow anyone to notice. I hear Ethan shift his weight, but not move closer. He leaves the space open, neither pressing nor retreating, and in that gap I feel the strangest thing. Not judged, not pitted, simply witnessed. And for one dangerous second, it feels like relief. The silence holds only a breath longer before a sound cuts through it. A knock. Not the polite rhythm of neighbors or deliveries, but three firm raps that reverberate against the door like the back of a fist. Every muscle in me tightens. No one should be here at this hour. My doorman knows that. My staff knows that. I glance at Ethan. He's already straightened, his casual posture gone. The shift so swift it's as though a switch has been thrown. He doesn't ask permission. He moves. His steps are measured, quiet, but his presence expands until he seems to fill the entryway. Another knock. Louder this time. Stay back, he says without looking at me, the command delivered in a low register that leaves no room for argument. I bristle. I don't take orders. Yet I don't move forward either. The intercom is a blur beneath my fingers, but before I can press it, a voice calls through the door. Mrs., we know you're in there. This won't wait forever. My pulse spikes. I recognize the tone before the words. Not creditors exactly. Enforcers of debts my late husband left tangled like barbed wire. They've been circling, trying to remind me that his mistakes aren't buried with him. Ethan's hand hovers near the lock, not touching, just gauging. He tilts his head, listening the way a man might in a darker alley than this penthouse hallway. Two of them, he murmurs. Weight shifting. They're not here to talk polite. Fear burns up my spine, threatening to unravel the control I've worked so hard to display. You don't, I begin. I do, he cuts in, his voice like steel slid back into a sheath. The door shutters with a third round of knocks, followed by a muttered curse on the other side. Ethan's shoulders roll back once, loosening, preparing. Then he speaks through the wood, his tone sharp enough to slice. You've made your point. Step away from the door. A pause. Then laughter, low and mocking. Who's this? The new guard dog. Doesn't matter who I am. Ethan replies, calm but edged. What matters is you don't knock here again. Something in his delivery changes the air. The mockery outside falters, replaced by shifting feet, a muttered exchange too faint to catch. Then silence. I stand frozen, breath held, until their footsteps fade down the hall. Only then does Ethan turn the deadbolt, not to unlock, but to seal it tighter. He looks back at me, and his eyes are no longer mild. They are storm dark, assessing, ready. They'll be back, he says quietly, unless you change the rules. My hands tremble where they grip the edge of the console. Tremble, not from shock alone, but from the weight of being seen again, this time in a fear I cannot mask. The quiet after their retreat feels heavier than the pounding that came before. I don't move from the console table. My fingers ache from gripping its edge, knuckles white, the wood digging crescents into my skin. Ethan doesn't speak right away. He waits, watching the door, as if silence itself might reveal whether the men linger beyond sight. When he finally turns, his expression has softened, though the storm has not fully left his eyes. You've seen them before, he says. Not a question. I swallow hard, my throat dry. They've been circling for weeks. Sometimes they call, sometimes they show up. They never push too far, not enough for the police to treat it seriously. He nods once, as if he expected that. Because they don't need to push. They just need you to feel them close. That's the leverage. Make you believe they can reach in whenever they want. The words slice through me. I've spent months telling myself I was above intimidation, that my late husband's mistakes were his alone, that I could build a wall of competence high enough to block every shadow. But in this moment, with my hands still trembling, I cannot lie to myself. They think I'm alone, I whisper. Ethan steps closer, not intruding, but steady enough to anchor the space. They think you're easier prey, without someone to stand between you and their knock. I force a laugh, brittle. And now you've nominated yourself for the role of shield? His answer is quiet, firm. No one should stand alone against people like that. Not you. Not with her in the next room. The mention of my daughter breaks whatever composure I have left. My chest tightens, a sound half between breath and sob clawing at my throat. I turn away, unwilling to let him see. But he doesn't press. He doesn't move closer. He lets the silence stretch until I gather myself, until my shoulders square again. Only then does he continue. They'll keep testing. That's what men like that do. Unless you draw the line and prove it holds. And what do you suggest? I ask, sharper than I intend, because asking feels like admitting I don't already have the answer. His eyes meet mine, steady and unflinching. You stop letting them choose the terms. Fear is their currency. You take it away. The room feels smaller, the weight of his words pressing against walls I've built too carefully. My pulse is still uneven, but for the first time in weeks, I don't feel like prey. Not with him standing there, calm, unshaken, as though the knock had only confirmed what he already knew. The apartment has finally gone still again, but the silence feels different now. Less fragile, more charged, as though the walls themselves are aware that something dangerous just brushed against them. I move to the kitchen, needing the ritual of glass and bottle, the clink and pour to steady my hands. Ethan doesn't follow immediately. When he does, it's without hurry, his steps measured. He takes a seat at the far end of the counter, not presuming closeness, yet not withdrawing either. I notice the way he studies the room. Not curious, not impressed, just alert. I set 2 glasses down before I can second-guess the impulse. Scotch, I say, though it comes out sounding more like an order than an offer. He accepts without comment. We sit in the muted light, the sound of ice shifting against glass the only marker of time. I expect him to fill the silence with questions or platitudes, but he doesn't. He waits. You spoke like you'd done this before, I finally say. His gaze lifts. Done what? Measured men on the other side of a door. Heard weight shifts. Counted the threat before it came through. He takes a slow sip, then sets the glass down carefully. I used to wear a badge, he says. Simple. Without bravado. Pieces click into place. The posture, the way he seemed to expand in the doorway, the quiet authority that turned mockery into retreat. Why leave? I ask, curiosity pressing through my usual walls. He exhales, not with regret, but with a heaviness that belongs to memory. Because some battles you can't win with cuffs and coats, and some nights you carry home more than you should. The words settle between us, thick with things unsaid. I don't pry. Something in his tone tells me the details are his alone to keep. Instead, I watch the way his hand wraps around the glass, steady and sure. The same hand that only an hour ago held my daughter as if she were made of spun glass. My son taught me that, he adds, almost as an afterthought. Long nights. Bottles that seemed endless. Breathing through his fear until he believed he wasn't alone. The image pierces more deeply than I expect. A man alone, tracing breath after breath with a child who would not see a second year. The ache in my chest surprises me, sharp and unfamiliar. You sit here, I murmur, almost to myself, and you don't ask for anything. Ethan's eyes meet mine, clear, unwavering. I'm here for her, he says, voice low. That's enough. I look away quickly, as though the honesty might scorch if I hold it too long. Yet the words linger, threading through the quiet, reshaping the space between us. The glasses stand half empty on the counter, their amber contents catching the soft light. I trace a finger along the rim of mine, the vibration humming faintly against the glass, a sound just loud enough to remind me how frayed my nerves still are. Ethan hasn't moved in minutes. He sits steady, his silence neither pressing nor awkward. It feels deliberate, the same way his breathing steadied my daughter earlier. Eventually, he sets his drink down and glances toward the hallway where the nursery lies. She'll wake again before morning, he says. Not a warning, not a complaint, just the quiet confidence of a man stating fact. I usually manage, I reply, though my voice lacks the steel I wish it carried. You do more than manage, he says. But even iron bends if it's the only thing holding weight. The words touch a nerve. I rise from the stool, pacing once to the window. The city sprawled beneath me in endless light and movement. For years I've told myself independence is armor, that the only way to survive is to never need, never ask. Yet tonight, the echo of fists on my door and the calm that followed still churns through me, undeniable. I turn back. He's watching, not intruding, not demanding, simply waiting for me to decide what to say. You should go. I begin, the phrase brittle, instinctive. Then I hear myself add, softer. But not just tonight. The admission hangs between us, heavier than any glass or locked door. My pulse quickens. I half expect him to misunderstand, to take it for something I didn't mean to offer. He doesn't. His eyes narrow slightly, weighing the request with care, not hunger. He leans forward, forearms resting on the counter. That's not a small ask, he says. I know. My throat tightens around the words. But she needs stability. And maybe I do too. For a long moment, he studies me, his silence more precise than any speech. Finally, he nods once, deliberate. Then I'll stay. Relief courses through me, unsteadying in its intensity. I grip the back of a chair to keep from showing it. Ethan rises, rinses his glass without ceremony, and sets it aside. I'll take the first wake up, he says, as if the matter were settled. I want to protest, to insist on splitting the burden evenly, but the words falter before they reach my lips. Because in truth, tonight, I don't want to argue. I just want to believe that for once, I don't have to carry everything alone. When he disappears down the hallway, the apartment feels different. Not lighter exactly, but steadier, as though the walls themselves recognize the shift. I stand in the glow of the city lights, hearing the quiet, and allow myself one rare thought. Safe.